There was a reason that the other day, Meghan Markle used this hapless American Airlines hostess to put out a whole load of propaganda about what a brilliant passenger she was on flights. Because let me tell you, I have been working for some time on a story that was prompted to me by a British Airways air hostess about the total opposite. About the fact that Ms. Markle is now famous for the atrocious ways that she treats crews on international flights, including, by the way, on American Airlines. So I'm going to reveal everything I know about this and how it came about, because it truly is fascinating. And it's also an insight into the way that Meghan Markle will use ordinary people to try and wage PR campaigns on her behalf. So I was sitting down on a British Airways flight about 6 months ago now, and I was approached completely out of the blue by a senior staff member on board. I'm, of course, protecting that woman's identity for obvious reasons. And she said to me, Dan, I really need to speak to you about Meghan Markle. Now, this woman first looked after Meghan Markle on board her flight to South Africa. You remember at the time that Archie was a young child. And this woman was just utterly horrified by the fact that Meghan Markle was attempting to present herself as someone who treated staff well, when indeed Meghan's treatment of air hostesses on board flights is nothing short of abysmal. Now, some of you might think, well, she's an under-stress duchess. Of course that goes on. Fine. But then do not try and present to the world that you're someone who staff members on flights, on planes absolutely love. Now, I actually do believe that the way that you treat staff on board a flight is quite indicative of your personality. Because we all know these are great people and they're looking after you in difficult circumstances. And so I want to tell you just a little bit about what I learned firstly about Meghan's behavior on board that flight to South Africa, because it is very telling. And remember, Archie at that point was a young child. So this air hostess reported to me that on that flight, Meghan refused to touch or look after Archie even once. She didn't look at him. She had zero interest when he was upset. And she expected the staff the entire time to take care of that baby. This British Airways staff member insisted to me that it was very obvious to her that there was zero connection between mother and child. There were a team of staff there, including at least one nanny, who was feeding the baby bottles. What was so fascinating too is that Meghan Markle was only polite to the staff on board that flight when Prince Harry was around. This staff member told me that when Harry was not in direct earshot or in the vicinity, she was like a different person. And again, that's a small detail, but it's one that I think is very important because it does suggest that there is some manipulation of Prince Harry that goes on, and some reason why when she's constantly reported by staff on both sides of the Atlantic as a bully, Harry is very shocked by this because clearly Meghan does change and become a different person when he was around. Now, what was interesting is this staff member said, but the thing is, Dan, this is not new. Meghan Markle had a reputation with airline staff for many years before she even entered the royal family. And this was because, of course, she would often crisscross from across the Atlantic in order to attend Soho House events and also in order to attend filmings for movies between seasons of Suits. And I was told that I needed to look into Meghan Markle's treatment of staff. So I did. And the first thing I found out that was very interesting is that Meghan always used to insist that she be upgraded on flights, even though she would not purchase the higher ticket class herself. And this was something that started to infuriate crew because she was just so consistently rude to them when she was on board. And so I spent a number of months attempting to contact other people within the airline industry who had experience with Meghan Markle. She tends to, these days, when she's flying commercial, fly on American Airlines. And the American Airlines staff that I spoke to were absolutely insistent that Meghan Markle was the worst celebrity they had ever had to serve. They were absolutely insistent that her behavior on board flights was diva-like, rude, cold, and demanding. And that's why they were particularly shocked when this video emerged of an American Airlines flight attendant trying to suggest to the world that Meghan was the nicest person to look after on board a flight. My understanding is that this was a arranged PR stunt. Because again, when I'm speaking to the American Airlines staff members, they have insisted to me that it simply would not be acceptable for them to post publicly on TikTok about their experience with a famous passenger. It goes against every single contractual rule. It could actually lead to disciplinary action. And the fact that this air hostess also publicly shared the contents of a note provided by the passenger would cross every ethical line. So the American Airlines staff that I have spoken to have been very clear to me that they believe this was an arranged setup. And my understanding is that Meghan has been trying to get ahead of this story. She wanted to use this flight attendant to try and make the point that actually she is very nice to staff on board, when actually that is not the reality. And she knows that she is protected by the anonymity of these airline staff members who cannot speak out publicly, even once they have left the airline, because they could be sued, they would be in breach of contract, and certainly if they are still serving staff members, serving cabin crew, it's just not even an option. So before I get analysis on this from P. Diner, the royal YouTube sensation, here's a reminder of that video posted on TikTok by the American Airlines flight attendant, and then, by the way, PR'd to the likes of People magazine so that the story went viral around the world. Watch.
Had on my flight, who I had a pleasure of serving, the Queen, the Princess, the Duchess of Sussex, the Meghan Markle was on my flight, and she's so beautiful in person. She was so sweet. She wrote us a little handwritten note back. So we wrote her a note that said, "It's a pleasure of serving you. We love you real bad." And she wrote this note back that says, "Dear AA girlies, thank you for the love, hospitality, and handwritten note. You know me well. All love right back to you." And then I think it says, "Forever, Megan." You know, I can barely read this cursive, but look at this handwriting is giving rich. It's giving expensive. It's giving princess. She also said she loved my nails, and the captain on my last flight said they were intense. So, sir, it doesn't matter what you think. The Queen says she likes them.
So, P. Diner, all of this is far too coincidental for me. The fact that I'd been working on this story for a number of months, speaking and taking my time to speak to as many people who had served or looked after Meghan on board flights, mainly long-haul flights. And then all of a sudden, as I'm going about doing that, this video drops. It's leaked to People magazine, which we know is Meghan's current propaganda outfit of choice. And there's no consequences for this flight attendant who has broken every single contractual rule of American Airlines.
Megan is so desperate to be liked, but doesn't want to change anything about who she is in terms of just being authentic. And I think she has to make these little stunts to make herself seem likable. And it's just disgusting that you would even do this. I mean, it's clearly it is a setup. Megan is the worst of them all because, her whole claim thing is I'm not even speaking to my father because of, taking pictures for the paps or, having these pictures taken of him. Look, she does it too. Look, she does it all the time. Megan is so bad when it comes to just being a real good person because this proves she has to make these little stunts to be likable because otherwise people don't like her because of what you were saying before, like the stories around how she treated the whole crew on the flights. I mean, she's just not a nice person, and Harry doesn't even apparently see it. I mean, I think it's slipped. It has shown itself sometimes, and Harry just doesn't want to wake up to his reality that his wife is nothing like the late Princess Diana. His wife is a nasty piece of work. And she has shown herself to people that know. And it makes a lot of sense that people would say these things about her because she knows she's not being filmed. She knows that she's not in front of cameras. So her real true self comes out in these intimate moments. And, hearing them say these things about her, it just validates everything that we've said about her. She's just not a good person. She bullies people and she's just not even a good mother. I mean, what kind of person doesn't even look at their child and, want the staff to constantly feed them? She doesn't want anything to do with her own children. They are props in this whole PR game that she is playing to make her look like a loving mother. She is nothing to be admired. Her true self is nasty. She's a bully and she doesn't have a good bone in her body. And she deserves all the negative PR that she gets and people speaking out against her because we need to hear people telling us who the real Meghan Markle is because we see it and we just need it validated. And thank goodness people are able to validate the things that we know about her and what people have said, because you can't keep going around acting and being this kind of person while trying to appear to be this really good natured person who's trying to do good in the world. I mean, that's fraud. Okay, that is right there being a very sinister, devious, not good person. It's so bad. And I think us talking about it, Dan, has to continue because she will keep trying to get over on people in her celebrity likeness. She'll keep trying to make this thing work. If people don't come out and say the truth about who she really is. And I'm so glad to hear that. And American Airlines should definitely do something about this setup with this agent because it doesn't look good for American Airlines that their flight attendant is coming out and revealing personal information on a note from a celebrity. How would that make other celebrities feel? If they're on a flight, where they're going to be outed and talked about by name to the world on social media? It's just not a good look for American Airlines as well. Something needs to be done about that for sure.
Totally. I mean, it was so obviously a setup, obviously a setup. And the thing is, I can honestly, hand on heart, tell you, P. Dinah, that I was not pursuing this story until I was approached first by that British Airways staff member, then by a separate American Airlines staff member. And this was long before that video ever came out. And they were insistent to me that there is a real pattern of behavior here. And I think, P. Dinah, you're so right to point out that Meghan behaves in this way when she knows that she is contractually protected. Because, for example, with all of the staff members at Buckingham Palace, they have been unable to speak out, and Kensington Palace, by the way, because of the Official Secrets Act. All of the staff at Archewell in Los Angeles unable to speak out because of the cast iron NDAs. And it's the same thing when you're on board a flight, because it's your career and because these contracts with the airlines are so watertight. It's very different than, for example, the interaction you could have with a waiter at a restaurant. The other thing is, as well, as I think Meghan can fake it for an hour, maybe even 2 hours. But what's very clear is that when you're with her for a long period of time, either as a staff member in an office environment or, of course, on a long haul flight, which is stressful, people are tired, of course they are. That's when she is unable to hide the true nature of her personality and just her true diva behavior. And I'm sorry, I think it is disgusting that someone with so much privilege, with so many people looking after her, would treat the little guy so horribly. And I can totally understand why it must be very galling for these crew members to then see this TikTok video go viral. And they're like, hang on a moment, that's nothing like the woman that we were dealing with.
Mhm. Yeah, it's almost like, there's this big secret, that, Megan is this nice person and people really, like her, but the people in the airlines, they're like looking, wait a minute, that's not the truth. And so they want to get out what, the truth is. And I'm so glad to hear them really say this, because I think Megan is going to be that person that, by any means necessary, she's going to try to make herself be the good guy. Like, she's going to keep trying. But she's not going to be able to win with that, because the people that come out and give the truth, that know who she really is, are going to speak up, and they're going to make it known to the whole world. And eventually she's going to drown in the truth coming out against her. Absolutely. And I think even more exposés around like what Megan is really like is going to come out. People are going to probably get rid of those NDAs and say what it is that their experience is, because it's going to be just too much to handle trying to not say anything when Megan is out there continually trying to make it look like she is this good person, and she's trying to help people and, do all these philanthropic things. This woman is, it's almost like we have to have it exposed continually, because she's going to keep trying. This is like playing that game, Whack-A-Mole. We're going to keep trying to expose this woman to who she really is, because it's disgusting. Because she's trying to do things like real meaningful change. Like, she's trying to do things that it's almost like a slap in the face to the people who are really doing the good work and who are really trying to make a difference. And then you have Megan, this woman, perpetrating this fraud of trying to be this goodwill ambassador. And we have to put her in her place, Dad. We have to.
Totally. Well, what then got interesting, P. Dinah, is I was able to get to some of the people who had worked with Meghan before she was with Prince Harry. Because, as I say, the British Airways staff member told me this was not a new thing. This behaviour was not new after she entered the royal family. And I was able to speak to, and again, I will not name him out of respect, but I was able to speak to a very, very senior staff member on a film that Meghan had shot in between the seasons of Suits. Now, this is before she met Prince Harry. And the way that she treated the staff on that film, P. Dinah, was like nothing else. She was described to me by this very senior staff member, someone who's respected in the industry, as the worst actor they have ever had to deal with. And again, what was so fascinating, P. Dinah, is it came back to transportation. She has such a thing with transportation. She was demanding first-class flights between London and locations in Europe in order for her to return to London to attend social events connected to Soho House and Wimbledon, even though these first-class flights did not exist. When she was told these first-class flights don't exist, because just for people who don't realise, a lot of flights between European destinations are just all economy. You're on the plane, P. Dinah, for maybe like 1 hour, 2 hours. Like, a lot of these flights don't have a first class at all. But when Meghan found this out, she hit the roof. She was so furious. She was so ropeable. At one point, she demanded a private jet. Now, this was a low budget B movie. And so, again, her behavior, her treatment of staff in terms of the expectations connected to her travel was absolutely off the scale, P. Dinah, before she even entered the royal family. So this is something that is in this woman, this sort of diva behavior, this toxic treatment of people. It's nothing to do with what happened to her once she was in the royal family. It's been with her for her entire life, or at least her life once she got the role on Suits. I think that's really when it started to change, when it went to her head.
Absolutely. And that's when she left her husband, right? Can you imagine how she was when she was in the royal family with that ego of hers? She was off the chain. I'm telling you, that's why she had the nerve and the audacity to show up to Wimbledon to have all the seats around her empty, because that shows you the level of where her ego went, because she already had it in her with a big head. And then when she got access to royalty, she thought she could just show up and show out to the whole world that, no one has the right to sit around me. I think Harry is in a conundrum with this woman, because it's going to get real bad for him when this divorce comes, because this woman, she has no shame at all about her behavior. She will keep doing it, and she will keep showing out as the horrible, nasty, vindictive woman that she is. I can't wait for this to actually see the light with Harry, to see who this woman is, the woman he's married. I think he's still trying to put his head in the sand about who she truly is, because, she's treating him poorly as well, with that ego. He's even been put in the back. I mean, she's become the celebrity of the relationship. You're like, Harry, you ain't nobody. You just opened the door. Get behind me. I'm the celebrity. Okay. This is why she has the audacity to do what she's doing with Harry before the whole world. Like, it's about her. It's not about Harry. Okay. It's Meghan trying to just play on that sick ego of hers, and to just do what someone like her with that ego does. That's what she's doing. It is disgusting. And I'm so glad that William is going to put his foot down with this woman. Something needs to happen. Something needs to de-swell that head of hers. Somebody needs to put her in her place, because it's just out of control at this point.
Well, yes. And why would William want to have a person like this still connected to the family and doing the royal family reputational damage? I mean, this type of behavior, actually, even though, look, you can say they're small incidents, but P. Dina, they're not. I mean, these are constant. The bullying accusations now are so plentiful that they cannot be ignored. And I think William now really does even need to start pressuring his father and say, come on, you can't leave this to me. You can't leave this to me. We've got to take some united action now.
Right. It doesn't get better. It gets worse. I mean, look at what's happening. Look what's happening to Harry. I mean, imagine what is happening to these children with that kind of an ego, how they'll grow up. This is not good. Like, at this point, the royal family, you need to stop it. You need to put a stop to all of this. And someone needs to put this woman in check with this ego of hers, because them, by not saying anything or doing anything, I think it's just making it worse. She's just going to keep going and just be having this entitlement complex about her. And I just can't imagine it's going to get better. It only gets worse. And I think if anyone can stop it, is the royal family, because they have that power to deflate that big head of hers. It's too big. Something is wrong with this woman in a big way.
Well, it is, because it's like, honestly, you only have to behave politely for a small number of hours when you're outside of your home. Think of all of the headlines that have already run. Like, if that's not enough motivation to stop you acting, let me just say it, P. Dina, like a total entitled bitch, then nothing will. Nothing will stop you. Nothing will ever stop her acting this way.
Mm-hmm. And who is going to pay the price? There's the price to be paid with her not stopping with this ego. The price is going to be the people that are in her immediate area of life. her husband, these children, okay? I think her mother's already walked away a few times. I mean, we hardly ever even see her anymore or hear from her. This woman is out of control, and if you love your son, your brother, this is an intervention. Seriously, somebody needs to come and rescue Harry and these children from this crazy woman because she is destructive. She's going to do a whole
Yes.
lot of not good in America.
Yes, and by the way, you're completely right to point out the current situation with Doria, because something is going on there. In that recent podcast, that final episode of the podcast Confessions of a Female Founder with Tina Knowles, Meghan actually admitted, because so often Meghan admits things, it's like, we know what's really going on. Meghan admitted that her mother went to the Beyonce concert without even telling her. She just turned up at Beyonce, and Meghan was very annoyed about it. I think even Doria has had enough, which is certainly saying something.
The video suggests that Meghan Markle behaved unusually during a flight, reportedly refusing to touch or even look at her son, Archie. According to the narration, the airplane crew noticed her actions and found them shocking. This is framed as a major departure from what viewers might expect from a mother. Most of these types of stories rely on anonymous or unnamed sources, such as airline crew members or close observers. Often, these claims are second-hand, meaning they are passed along without direct evidence. It's important to note that unnamed sources can sometimes be unreliable, especially when discussing high-profile public figures. Even if Meghan did limit physical contact for a moment, there could be many reasons that are perfectly normal. Parents sometimes allow children to sleep or rest without being disturbed, particularly on flights. She could also have been following a routine or giving Archie space, which is common for some parents and does not indicate neglect or cruelty. What we know for certain from credible sources is that Meghan Markle has 2 children, Archie and Lilibet, and there is no verified report from trustworthy news outlets confirming that she refused to interact with Archie in a harmful way. Reputable reporting consistently shows Meghan actively involved in parenting. The video uses words like refused, shocking, and revealed to provoke a strong emotional reaction. This is a common technique in tabloid-style reporting. While these words make the story seem dramatic, they don't necessarily reflect the reality of what happened. Royal family content is naturally polarizing. Every action is scrutinized, and small anecdotes can become headlines. Tabloids and online videos often take minor events and amplify them to create conflict, which drives clicks and engagement. When you watch content like this, ask yourself a few key questions. Who is the source? Is there verified evidence? Could there be normal explanations for the behavior? Separating fact from speculation is crucial, especially when dealing with claims about parenting or personal life. In summary, this video appears to be largely based on speculation and unverified anecdotes. There is no solid evidence that Meghan Markle acted in a harmful way toward Archie. It's always better to consider context and verified information before drawing conclusions. What do you think about these claims? Do they seem plausible or more like tabloid exaggeration? Share your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more thoughtful breakdowns of viral stories.